Our second of 3 El Clásicos in a month, and I can tell you with this one, it's over. La Liga, it's over. And that feels pretty good to say because how many El Clásicos of late have Culés been able to say that with? 12 points at this point, yes, I know, mathematically it's possible, we should all be all doom and gloom, but I don't believe in any jinxes like that. 12 points is way too much for Real Madrid to come back from. And this was a pretty fitting way for Barcelona to win their 100th El Clásico in their history. Yes, both sides had plenty of excuses. There was no Pedri, no Dembélé, no David Alaba on the other side. But while both teams did have their excuses, on the field at least, I didn't see any excuses taking place. That's all stuff we're going to talk about. And thankfully, unlike the Copa del Rey first leg game where Barcelona gave up so much of the possession at the Santiago Bernabeu, I don't feel like I'm going to have to make many excuses for Barcelona either after the performance they put in at the Spotify Camp Nou. So let's do it. Here are the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-1 victory over Real Madrid. Well, actually, before we do that, it'd be a big help if you could subscribe to the channel, maybe even give this video a like, and maybe even a share. This is just the kind of match that I'm hoping gets Culés who may have checked out after Europe back into the fold and back excited about the team. And with sitting through that little PSA there, I hope you've subscribed. There's your other chance there. Well, now it's time to get really into it, the 5 headlines from Barcelona's win over Real Madrid. One is El Clásico Standards. There was a time, I'm old enough to remember, when both of these teams sat atop the world, and El Clásico truly felt like a toss-up of the 2 great giants in the world. There did feel like a time when everything was even, when there were stars, star managers, and every game felt like it was going to lead to another team taking a trophy from the other. And while both these teams were dominating the rest of the world, the only team they seemed to be unable to dominate was each other. But then, of course, Culés sat through, and you've seen it for the match reviews that I've been doing for the last few years, when Barcelona have felt like they were a step behind Real Madrid in all aspects of the games, in trophies, even in the boardroom. It just felt like Barcelona were lacking. But for this game, even though there are mixed reports, of course, podcast host Levon was saying that he felt like it was one of the more quieter pregame atmospheres that he had ever seen, and yet there are others that saying that there was fanfare like they had never seen before in Catalonia. Yet regardless of the pre-game atmosphere, no mosaic as well for the first time in 31 years, which does feel a bit odd. But once that opening whistle blew, it did feel like both these teams were willing to completely get up for a game that really mattered to both sides. Within the first 3 minutes of action, both the number 9s put a shot on target. And I think that's all we needed for this game to go off to the races and fit what I'd like to say has been lacking recently, and that is El Clásico standards for El Clásico. I do think being at home mattered for Barca, and maybe that early Benzema chance woke Barca up, because instead of ruining the chances that Barca didn't finish, we get to look at them with that glass half full and consider just how many times Barca troubled Courtois. There was the early Lewandowski chance, Roberto's high shot, Christensen's header, Christensen's back heel, Rafinha's long shot, Rafinha's second half-bouncing chance in the second half, and Lewandowski also had a run in behind in the second that really could have ended with a little bit of luck in a goal. And headline 2, speaking of luck, is almost unlucky. This is one of those matches in the 9th minute when Barca go down, and you could have felt like, even in the Spotify Camp Nou with all those fans cheering for any bit of luck that they could squeeze out of this team and Xavi's side, it may not have been their day. Because that first goal is a ton of luck for Real Madrid, which makes those Carlo Ancelotti comments, you can check those out, pretty puzzling in the post-game, where he felt like they deserved to win. Well, I don't know about this own goal here. A little bit of luck, but maybe a little bit of an error on Barcelona's side as well. Roberto, Busquets, and Araujo maybe got their wires crossed, but Busquets kept up with Vini Jr., I thought, rather well. If Araujo doesn't head it, Ter Stegen may have a play on it, and maybe Benzema doesn't finish that. Roberto probably should have shifted over when Vini Jr. came behind, but I don't know if he stops that cross from getting off either and slides fast enough to deal with Vini Jr., who had already turned his hips to get towards the goal line in a way that Roberto would have had to go over his left shoulder and turn his hips that way. I don't think he catches him at all, and I think that happens either way. And not to underplay that goal at all, but it was also Barcelona's first open play goal conceded at home this season. We're all the way in March, and the season started in August. And that really is the reason. More than this 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever, 99 minutes or whatever. Their defensive record, especially at home against all Liga competition, is why Barcelona were leading the Liga going into this match and why they most likely will win the title. Again, that's why 12 points is not about Real Madrid. It's actually about Barcelona this time around, which again feels pretty good to say. There are also moments where I think both teams had some shouts for things happening their way, like that questionable Nacho tackle on Rafinha near the end of the first half. Don't forget about that one. And to credit Madrid, they did make their own luck too. I thought Vini Jr. got the better of Araujo more than their other meetings combined, which again is not necessarily an insult to Araujo, but Vini Jr. did feel pretty up to this match when the opening whistle blew. Yet, I also will say that Araujo hurt him down the right too, with Araujo getting forward and forcing Vini Jr. to do something he doesn't do, which is defend. They both ended the game with 2 successful dribbles, so, I guess, I don't know, you tell me who won that one. And then Koundé, who got 1 foot wrong all night, but it almost led to a goal in the second half, and certainly could have changed the way we talked about him in this game. And then Gavi, too, probably should have gotten a yellow in the second half when he pulled down a Madrid player behind the play. And all those things are just so you know what Madridistas will probably be talking about after this match. So there are moments where Barcelona were culpable, but they were also able to survive it. And none greater than the Asensio offside goal, of course. A complete breakdown on the left side for Barcelona, and they were just too late in tracking back on that side. Barca were pressing hard. Kessié was going forward probably a bit too much because of how gassed Rafinha was, and there was a miscommunication there. It's tough too because you know that Kessié was given these instructions. Get forward, press hard, and do that work right before Rafinha was going to come out for Ferran Torres. But before that sub was made, maybe Xavi should have subbed them off at the same time. But before that sub was made, that right side breaks down because Kessié is too forward and Madrid too easily broke through that press. Then Araujo tried to pinch on the sideline, and that brought Rodrigo coming inside, and eventually the ball gets to Asensio, and he finishes it well, but his shoulder, just the shoulder, you can see it. The line, straight line, the shoulder is offsides. Again, that call, that image is going to be seen everywhere and debated across all of Spanish television for the next week, certainly. 3 is only in El Clásico. I wanted to get those Real Madrid goals out of the way because I really do think it is time to talk about the man of the match, Sergi Roberto. I'm not sure if he's my man of the match. That might be Franck de Jong. You'll have to listen to the podcast about that one. But yeah, at least for Sergi Roberto, he was given to it by pretty much every other outlet for that goal that he scored. The goal that defined this game happened in the 45th minute. Oh wait, there was another goal that happened in even farther stoppage time at the end of a half. But yeah, Sergi Roberto got the man of the match. And I want to talk about the build-up too here. Koundé did really well against Benzema, and that was a running theme all night long. But that was one time where he brought the ball up himself on that right side. Araujo tucked into cover. Again, it's the end of that first half, so I think Vini Jr. was starting to get a bit of tired legs and didn't want to go forward with Araujo anymore, so Koundé was able to step into that space with the ball, and then Barca kept possession in Madrid's half. That's what you do when the legs of the opposition get tired. Even though Madrid had their chances and they had a 1-0 lead, Barcelona still had plenty of possession and plenty of control and opportunities in that half, and so they were still on the front foot at that moment. Gavi finds Lewandowski in behind after the ball was switched to the left, and then Rafinha whiffs on the first look, but things work out for Barcelona a little bit of luck. Araujo puts the cross back in, Rafinha's shot was blocked, falls right to Sergi Roberto. Who else? Of course, Sergi Roberto controls it and scores it confidently, his first El Clásico goal in 30-plus chances. And everyone said it too. With the exception of Roberto in for Kessié, the starting lineup was perfect. And you know what? When the game ended, maybe they were still right about that. But Roberto getting this goal, it's this weird thing. I don't find him at this point, of course, because I deal with every match. I deal with the wage structure. I deal with the last 5 years. So you can't get me on that romance of Sergio Roberto thing. I went on that podcast, The Ripple Effect, to talk about his goal against PSG just 2 weeks ago. And this is another one of those moments. I turned to the people I was watching the game with, and I said, who else? Of course, it's Sergio Roberto coming up in a moment right after he renewed again for another season. You can't get him out of his life because he's a captain and he scores goals like this. And that is all he really does for FC Barcelona. But you know what? They're going to take home the Liga trophy, and you're going to remember this goal. 4 is Barca's to lose. Regardless of what Madrid and Ancelotti want to say after this match, unlike the Copa del Rey first leg, where that was Real Madrid's match to lose, somehow they didn't get a shot on goal. We know that, of course, I said that. But still, Real Madrid should have been the team on the front foot in that game. But Barcelona at home were the team on the front foot in this match. And once that 1-1 happened, even though the second half was back and forth, the offside goal happened, it still did feel like Barca's game to lose, like so many other matches so far in the Liga this season. And that doesn't mean that Barcelona didn't play with fire, though. They were playing with fire around the 48th to 56th minute, somewhere around there, with Madrid having possession for large bouts of time in Barcelona's half of the field. Fortunately, in other previous seasons and other versions of El Clásico, Barcelona did have an answer. I thought they countered really well with some pressure of their own right after the sustained pressure from Madrid. And you could tell how much Lewandowski wanted a goal in this match and how he knew that it was there for him for the taking. He didn't get one, but I was much more inspired by Lewandowski's performance today than maybe I've been, with exception of 1 or 2 other games, since the World Cup break. I thought that's how much Lewandowski was important and significant in this match to take away the attention of Militao and Rudiger enough for other players to do what they have to do. Again, for the tactics about this game, that's going to be on the podcast, which will be out in a few hours. It's just going to be me flying solo, but if you want that extra stuff, go to wherever you find your podcast. I talk about all the tactics of this match in that version of it. Well, what is this discussion of the match? And while people will go on Lewandowski for missing that side volley at the back post in the second half, again, that moment winds up not mattering because of how the game ends. And even then, I don't know. I don't think it was as easy of a chance as people were saying. On the other side of the field, speaking of Barca to lose, the Araujo-Vini Jr. matchup was the one that everybody talked about beforehand. I think everyone will be talking about this week. And I know only Culés will really be talking about Christensen. I think this is the match, and this is the week, I should say, because of the international break, where I would hope the world, after having watched this match, begins to talk about just how important Christensen has been. Now, I don't watch enough of everybody else to tell you who the most important signings have been, but a free transfer signing, yeah, I know Kessié was a free transfer signing as well when he scored the winning goal, but a free transfer signing that winds up helping you win the Liga by potentially 10 points or more. So that means that a team who's going to win one of the major domestic league titles signed a free agent, and he was an essential part in winning that title. That is definitely one of the best signings that any team made this offseason. That is Andres Christensen. For the second straight Clásico, and I am talking about that first leg Copa del Rey match, Christensen held Benzema to be largely ineffective throughout the entire match. He's a reigning Ballon d'Or winner, and you barely heard a sniff out of him. Yes, he was combining play, but as far as when he was in Barcelona's box, Christensen or Koundé handed him off perfectly. It was very much like the communication I spoke about in that first leg of the Copa del Rey. I thought Barcelona's backline were magnificent dealing with Benzema. And his huge block, that being Christensen's, in the 86th minute, that's what felt like at least a draw had been secured at that point. And right in front of them, Busquets and De Jong as well did their jobs better than Kroos and Modric did. And as I've said 1,000 times, when Barcelona win the midfield battle, they had the better chance to win the match. And we overuse terms like the Barca way to say things we can't explain, but having the better midfield and getting the better result is certainly somewhere in there. De Jong barely put a foot wrong. He had 100 touches in this match, 77 of 82 on his passes, 10 ball recoveries, won 8 of his 9 duels, committed 0 fouls, fouled twice, did not get dribbled past even a single time, and had 3 tackles more than anybody else in that match. Also 3 for 3, perfect on his dribbles. De Jong was sensational in this match, and okay, yeah, maybe I did kind of give it away here. De Jong's probably actually my man of the match. And 5 is King Kessié. Now let me read you the note that I had before Kessié scores that goal and after Ferran Torres and Kessié had come in the game and before Ansu Fati had come in. Even though Ferran Torres came on, Barca are basically winning the Liga with 15 players at the moment. You can sense it when Madrid made the 5 changes and they all added something different to the game, while Kessié and Torres just ran around while their tired teammates limped to the finish line. So that was a note that I wrote right before the game really busted open, and that was also right after the Asensio offside goal winds up not counting, but it felt like something had happened in that game, and so I wrote it down. Yeah, I'm glad there are times when there are notes that I should have deleted because I got it wrong, but, I did in the moment think that Xavi got it wrong. But it all works out for Kessié on the game-winning goal. Now, the game was wide open. Lewandowski's backheel pass, though, frees up Balde, and I had mentioned Lewandowski, as frustrating since the World Cup break it has been for him, I thought he was much better in this match, so much more significant. And again, it all started in basically, the 3rd or 4th minute when he unloads that long shot. Then Balde, of course, cuts it back to Kessié, who finishes with no doubt. And I think, to speak of Balde first, the pundits outside of Barcelona are starting to say it. If Balde gets better as his crossing and his final ball, he can be truly elite at the left back position, or actually across all positions. And what do I always say about fullbacks? It is almost impossible to be considered an elite fullback. Look at João Cancelo, just 12 months ago for Man City. Is he the best fullback in the world? Since that time, he's basically fallen out of favor at both Man City and Bayern Munich on loan. And so who are those elite fullbacks? Is it Zinchenko, who was a backup at Man City, he earned the starting spot, goes to Arsenal, now we're talking about him? Not to say it's easy, but it's actually hard to be considered an elite fullback because it's hard to stay consistent at the level at that position because it's so essential in modern football. So for Balde, yeah, if he gets the crossing and final ball, as I just said, it seems just as easy to fall back down the stairs as it does to go up them. So Balde can certainly get up those stairs in the next 1 or 2 years, depending on that final ball. But what I will say is that big moment for the elite cutback right to the foot for Kessié for the goal, that is certainly a play that the world just watched that's going to be considered when you're talking about how good Balde is. And the last note about that goal, and actually the first one too, it is crazy to think that the 2 midfielders who scored the 2 goals for Barcelona in this game were those guys that would probably not have started this game if Pedri was fit. So to sum it all up, Barcelona needed a win or a draw. That was necessary, but they got the win. They took care of business. And this might be an essential victory too. I know you say that Barcelona have to get over the hump in Europe, and I agree with that. Because in Europe, over the last few seasons, I was here too, every must-win game has ended in a loss. And I don't know how many times, I think that 4-0 for Barcelona last year over Real Madrid in El Clásico was maybe the last match that really truly felt must win, and Barcelona got a result in it. But even then, Real Madrid still wound up winning La Liga. Like, that was about Barcelona being able to affirm their space in the top 4, and again, to take care of business for the rest of that season. But this one could have got them a trophy. And I know they don't get the trophy tomorrow. They still have to take care of business. And as I just contradicted myself, a lot of the other results over the course of a whole season are what set you up for success in the Liga more than just one El Clásico. But Real Madrid wind up winning the Liga sometimes on the back of El Clásico. And I feel like today, Barcelona did just that. This game was teetering on the edge. And as they've done all season in Spain, though, Barcelona still hung on. And that's why this could really be a monumental win. As for me, as I did warn on last week's podcast, I am heading out for a few days. So if you want more of this match, while I don't have a guest this week, there's going to be plenty of tactics talk coming out with these 5 headlines in audio format. So get that wherever you get your podcasts. And this week, while I will physically be away from this desk I'm sitting at now, I won't be away from your ears and your eyes because I do have something on Sergi Busquets that has already been well researched and already edited and all that stuff, so that is ready to go, as well as a former Barcelona goal scorer that does have a little story about El Clásico in it, and that is Kessié. So we've got all that coming up through the international break, which, as I said, it's weird with momentum, this kind of breaking off, but I hope those good vibes can continue on through the international break, because I think this FC Barcelona team and Kool-Aids, for all the suffering they've done recently, have certainly earned it. So I may not always mean it completely, but I really truly mean it this time. As always, until next time, I'll see you soon, and Forza Barça.